Lunchtime Live on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avant Money. Think you're getting the best value from your bank? Think again.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen, and a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Lunchtime Live. This is Adrian Kennedy in for Andrea today, and we have a lot to get through between now and 2 o'clock. Now, as you will have heard Stephen reporting on the bulletin there, tickets for the 2022 World Cup qualifier between Ireland and Portugal are being sold on the website Viagogo for more than 3 times the original asking price. And this is despite the fact that we supposedly have anti-ticket touting legislation in place. Well, we do have it in place, but as we will find out today, it doesn't seem to apply to the Aviva Stadium or this particular match. So tickets went on sale yesterday. They were sold out in minutes, but just hours later they appeared on Viagogo with massively inflated prices. The original asking price for tickets for the match ranged from €40 to €120 for the most expensive seats. Tickets on the resale website this morning start at €188 and go as high as €419. Now, we've received a number of statements for example, the FAI said that they are aware that tickets for the Portugal match are currently being offered for resale at inflated prices online, and we remind fans who purchase tickets from a third-party website or any unauthorised seller that they risk not receiving a ticket at all or being denied entry with an invalid ticket. We urge fans not to purchase tickets from these sources. And then the website in question, Viagogo, have also sent us in a statement, and in their statement, interestingly, they say it is not illegal for tickets to be resold in Ireland. This can apply to designated venues, which this venue is not, i.e. the Aviva Stadium. It can also apply to standalone events, and no application has been forthcoming for the Portugal match. Viagogo does not set ticket prices. These are set by the people who use the platform to resell their tickets. Anyway, basically, in their statement, they're saying we've done nothing wrong here because the Aviva Stadium isn't a designated venue, nor is the match a designated event. So what's the law actually achieving? That's what we're going to try and find out today. We do have new anti-ticket touting legislation, but certainly for this match, and I believe for the upcoming Ireland-New Zealand match, because the Aviva Stadium hasn't been designated as a venue, it doesn't apply to them. So we're going to try and find out a little bit more about this. Aon O'Riordan is the Labour spokesperson for education and TD for Dublin Bay North, and he's on the line with me. Aon, what's after happening here?
Well, I think clearly the legislation isn't working the way it should be working. What the Minister needs to do is to designate a number of venues around the country. There already are 5 that are designated, mainly in Cork and Limerick and Vicar Street in Dublin. Musgrave Park, Thomond Park are amongst the 5. So what needs to happen here is that Lansdowne Road needs to be designated, Croke Park needs to be designated.
How is it that wouldn't have happened?
I don't know. I mean, I can assume from the FAI's point of view, maybe they made a calculation that this wouldn't be sold out. In the most recent games, there was only half the attendance, and those games weren't sold out. The Serbia game or the Azerbaijan game. So I perhaps that maybe came into their thinking. The Ronaldo factor probably has changed things, and certainly the improved performances of the team have changed things as well. However, there is a dynamic if you do go to a game at Lansdowne Road of an element of buying or selling ticket, that those sort of chants that take place outside a game. So there is that kind of dynamic that surrounds international soccer games. I can't speak to rugby as much, but I certainly know that happens at soccer internationals. So the cleanest and neatest thing for the Minister to do now is just to designate Lansdowne Road as a designated stadium, Croke Park being similar, Tallaght Stadium being similar, and to engage with the various different sporting organisations to see whether they have an objection to this or not. And
okay, so it seems clear to me that the fault in this case is either with the FAI or the Aviva Stadium, Lansdowne Road, that they didn't apply to be included in this. So that has allowed, and Viagogo in their statement very clearly say, we're not doing anything wrong here because it's not a designated venue.
Well, that's all very well for Viagogo to say that, but I think anybody would appreciate that the type of activity that happens on that website, to be honest, it wouldn't sit comfortably with me. I think what we want to have in any big sporting occasion, big musical occasion, is that people buy their tickets at face value. They enjoy the event. They create a relationship between themselves and the seller of the ticket, be the FEI, the RFU, or the GA, or whoever. And they enjoy the event on that basis. Having a third party involved takes away from it. I think what we need now is a very clean and very clear designation of Lansdowne Road and other sporting venues around the country, and so we won't have to have this issue again. I can appreciate as well, look, this is new legislation that only came in July. There was always going to be teething problems. And perhaps it was unforeseen that an Ireland-Portugal game would be completely sold out within minutes. Maybe some people might say it was foreseen. But anyway, given the pattern of ticket sales for Ireland games over the last 3 years, it might, and obviously they haven't been playing in front of crowds for 18 months, but it might be suggested that it wasn't be foreseen. But anyway, we can only deal with the situation we have now. What happens now is that the Minister intervenes, designates Lansdowne Road and other sporting venues, and so we don't have this problem again.
Now, just on Viagogo, in their statement, they say, we're committed to complying with all legal obligations under this Act, as we have done since it was commenced. We continue to engage with the Department to ensure full compliance. So they're literally throwing the ball back to the Department and saying, look, this isn't really our fault, it's your own fault, or it's...
That's fine, and they are legally compliant. But I think what government has to do and what politics has to do is to protect the consumer and to protect, I suppose, the child who wants to go to these games without fear of having a dud ticket or without their family going into huge financial expense in order to fulfil those dreams. I mean, look, I remember going to my first game in 1987. I know how much it meant to me. But, these things are expensive. If you have a family which has, 2 adults and a number of children, it is a massive financial, outlay in order to attend matches. That's, even if you live in Dublin, if you have to travel up from the country, it's an added expense, and there might even be overnights as well. So look, this is not a small thing for families to try and do. And if they find themselves being gouged for a couple of extra €100, it takes away from the entire experience. And,
do you see a place for... Sorry, Aon, do you see a place for websites like Viagogo to continue to exist? Because some would argue, there can be genuine reasons for needing to resell a ticket that you find you can't go.
Well, I honestly say, look, if somebody has a ticket and they want to sell it on at face value, that's fair enough. But if they're trying to make money out of it, I don't think that is fair enough. And you will always get bad actors walking into the space. I mean, we can always assume that somebody just has a ticket, has an extra ticket, wants to get rid of it, uses an internet website, and there's no harm in that. However, in all these circumstances, there's always bad actors who walk into this space, who get multiple tickets, take them away from fans, and then try to profit off it. These should be special memories for families and for young people and for sports fans or music fans. They shouldn't be something that you have to be, second guess all the time. And in this regard, I think the relationship between the sporting organisation and the fan is key. Having a third party involved in that, I think, is not something that is desirable.
Let me ask you about your confidence in the legislation itself, which was brought in earlier this year, and in theory it was to do away with ticket touting. Just this message came in just a moment ago from Linda, and she says, surely all they have to do is take the term designated venue out of the legislation. This would ensure that all tickets are covered under the legislation.
I think the problem there is that sometimes we wanted to ensure that a club could have a raffle or a charity event could have a raffle. There may be a situation where somebody has 2 tickets for a big event and they want to raise money for charity. So in order to facilitate that, we wanted to make sure that the designation came in. And I thought that was fair enough, because in all these circumstances, whenever you bring in legislation, people will make their own submissions from their own circumstance and say, well, actually, this is going to limit our capacity to raise money for X or Y event.
Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense.
That.
Yeah. Okay, so generally speaking... Generally speaking, do you believe that this legislation, if it's properly enforced, with the likes of the Aviva applying for designation, it will work in the long run?
Well, you see, the legislation assumes that the sporting organisation or the music venue or the department or the minister are going to be proactive. And what happened in this circumstance is that they weren't. And so the legislation is only going to work if people are proactive. And can foresee events. I can foresee a situation, for example, with the growing popularity of the women's soccer team. sold out events in Tallaght Stadium, and a similar situation happening where a young fan wants to see Katie McCabe or the Irish women's soccer team. There's only 8,000 tickets available, and all of a sudden there's inflated prices. So these things have to be preempted and foreseen. And so a number of sporting venues around the country, we have 5. We can increase that number. The 5 that are on the list, can be increased to include Croke Park, which isn't on the list, Lansdowne Road, which isn't on the list. Dalymount, be it Tallaght Stadium or wherever, and then we won't have the situation emerging again.
All right, stay there for 1 second if you can. Aon O'Riordan is the Labour spokesperson for education, and Dermot is on the line in Dublin. Dermot, you were actually trying to get tickets for this Ireland-Portugal match on Ticketmaster yesterday.
Yes, indeed I was. I was on most of the day. Now, I'm fortunate insofar as that I am a season ticket holder, although that's been suspended during COVID. So I was actually able to buy one on the early window, but I was looking for other family members to get a couple of tickets yesterday, but I was never able to get on the site.
Right, so you had no joy at all?
No joy at all, no.
And what do you make of this story today, that if you go on to Viagogo, you'll be able to get tickets ranging in price from 188 up to 419? Would you pay over the odds for a ticket?
I probably wouldn't pay over the odds for this particular game, and there's no doubt the Ronaldo factor has made this game popular, I think, because we've no chance of qualifying. So, the crowds have been low enough up to now, where obviously we're not doing well. But I suppose there's always, as a fan, there's always a price you might pay for a final. Your team gets to a final and you want to see it. You're tempted, but obviously, if none of us real fans paid over the odds for tickets, the market would stop. But there is things, I think, say for instance the FAI or any organisation could do. They could have a system where you can return the ticket to them, and they would have a standby list where I'd get an email tomorrow saying actually there's 2 returns here. If you're still interested, we can give them to you. Okay, so
rather than going and trying to sell them yourself, you just return them where you bought them from and get a refund.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
It would be a simple solution, and it would mean then that the FAI would be in control of the sale of them, or the governing body, whoever they are. It's hard to understand, by the way, just listening to Aon there, it's hard to understand how Croke Park and the Aviva, the two biggest venues in the country, weren't included.
It's beyond belief to me as well, and the only logical explanation that I can think is that this is actually the very first match we're looking at in the Aviva Stadium that will be maximum capacity. Up until now, this hasn't been an issue because there haven't been people, so it may be just an oversight. You'd like to think it's just an oversight.
There'll always be teething problems. The other thing I wonder now, Aon, obviously, is the expert here. He's read the bill. Viagogo aren't actually selling you the ticket; they're just the conduit between the ticket holder and the customer.
That's right, yes.
So would they actually be breaking the law? All they're doing is connecting the two. They're not actually
it becomes, if an event is a designated event, it becomes illegal to sell tickets for that event above face value. So you could sell them on Viagogo for face value, but not above face value, once it's a designated event.
But my point is, I'd be the one. Say I put mine on Viagogo. I'm the one selling them above face value. Viagogo isn't.
No, but they're obliged to adhere to the legislation, and in fact, they say in their statement that we are committed to complying with all legal obligations under the Act. So that basically means if an event is a designated event, they will not allow somebody to sell the ticket above face value. Stay there for 1 second. Let me go to Declan, who's on the line in Wexford. Declan, you don't see the big deal here.
No. I think, look, the game is sold out. Not everyone can go. No one is being ripped off here. People are charging what people are willing to pay for, and it's.
Well, no, I don't know if anybody's willing to pay €419 for a ticket.
Well, then that's fine. Well, then if no one pays that, then what's the problem?
Okay, but one of the problems, and in fact, a message just came in a moment ago. I'd just like to ask, where are the tickets on Viagogo coming from in the first place? The volume of tickets they have for sale suggests there is a source that can obtain vast amounts of tickets. Now, one of the things that this legislation is meant to do is to stop this mass purchase of tickets and flogging them above face value.
But like, people just shouldn't buy them then.
No, well, I certainly wouldn't pay €419 for a match that is actually a meaningless match.
But that's the point I'm making. Is no one's being ripped off. No one's being forced to buy these tickets.
Well, you kind of are being ripped off. You kind of are being ripped off if there was a mass purchase of those tickets yesterday. You don't
have to go, though.
You just heard Dermot a moment ago. He spent all day yesterday trying to get tickets for this match. Desperately wants to go. Some ticket tout who spotted the flaw in the legislation here thought, I'll buy up a load of them, and they did.
Yeah.
Is that
he's not been ripped off. He's not been forced to pay for them.
Of course he's not being forced to pay for them, but because they were snapped up, he can't get them at face value. That's the problem.
But that's always going to be the way. Like, there's always going to be people who can't buy the tickets. It's sold out.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be people.
But part of the problem here is it may. Part of the problem here is that it may have sold out quicker than it would have otherwise because of ticket touts.
There were limits on how many tickets an individual could buy, and there probably shouldn't be selling. But the idea that, like, if I'm in a pub and I have a ticket to the Ireland game, the Portugal game, and someone offers me €100, it's a crime for me to sell it at that price.
No, not if it's the problem is the ticket touting, and these, and yes, there are a limit on the amount of tickets you can buy and all of that. But these guys are so clever; they have 100 people buying up the tickets at one go, and that's where the problem is. And that's how Dermot. Let me just bring you back in for a second. He's saying there's no big deal; you don't have to buy the tickets.
Yeah, I mean, I accept that, but the point you made there is the valid one. If it's just a guy who can't go and he sells it on and he makes a small margin on it, I'd live with that. But there's obviously people or organisations that can access blocks of these things. I could just check Viagogo. I could buy 5 together in one section. Now, that's not somebody who can't go to a game.
No, that's somebody who bought 5 tickets or has access to 5 tickets, So obviously, if those touts weren't there doing what they did yesterday, and they probably did it in very large numbers because of the amount of tickets we see for sale on the website, if this had been a designated event, they wouldn't be allowed. Viagogo would not be selling the tickets above face value, but the problem is it's not a designated venue or event. That's where the issue is. Stay there for 1 second. Let me bring in... actually, we'll take a very quick break. If you want to get involved in this conversation, our phone number is 1890 453 106. You can text us on 53106. We have a lot more calls to get through straight after the break.
Lunchtime Live on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avant Money. Think you're getting the best value from your bank? Think again.
It appears that the legislation governing ticket touting doesn't apply to very much at all. We've just been notified that, for example, one of the biggest shows this Christmas is going to be The Lion King in the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. That is not a designated venue. This is not a designated event. And if you want tickets for this event on Viagogo, they range from €263 per ticket up to €362 per ticket. Now, I'm sure The Lion King is going to be an amazing show, but I don't think I'll be paying €362 for a ticket to go and see it. But the point being that, again, this is not a designated venue. This is not a designated event. So therefore, the tickets can be sold on Viagogo. Now, we have reached out to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. We're trying to get confirmation, but it appears that it doesn't apply to theatres, full stop. So an in-demand show can be touted, and the tickets can be sold above face value on sites like Viagogo. €362 per ticket for the stalls just in front of the stage. I mean, they're great seats and all that, but anyway. We'd love to hear from you. 1890 453 106. You can also text us on 53106. Now, Gary, what are your thoughts on this, Gary? A big football fan?
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with what Aon said earlier, that the Aviva Stadium and other stadiums and in the theatres and concert venues should be designated in the legislation and just outlaw this, because I think you always will have people buying or selling a ticket outside the football grounds or whatever, but the legalised touting is on a much larger scale. And part of the problem yesterday would have been that these organisations would have had people ready at 10 o'clock on fast Wi-Fi, people who are skilled on using the computers, using the internet, and they would have snapped up the tickets. And then you have your amateur touts as well, who would have been buying up these tickets. And I mean, there are people who do this for every concert and for every big sporting event, and just stick them on Dundee or stick them on Viagogo or wherever. And I mean, if the legislation could just which my understanding was that Noel Rock's legislation had done this.
My understanding of it was as well that, ticket touting is now a thing of the past in Ireland, but apparently not. And all I can assume is that with the Aviva Stadium, this was just an oversight because they haven't had capacity crowds at all, and probably nobody expected this Ireland-Portugal match to sell out because attendances have been so poor lately. The match is really a non-event, except people might want to see Ronaldo or might want to support the boys in green now because they've certainly improved over the last few games.
Yeah, I don't know. I think quite a lot of the fans would have expected it to sell out. I mean, Ronaldo is a global superstar, and there is that hype. But even withstanding Ronaldo, the friendly a couple of weeks ago against Qatar, now it was limited to half attendance, but that actually sold out at 26,000, which frankly was quite an achievement for a friendly again. So if a friendly against Qatar, who would not be a major footballing power, can sell 26,000 tickets, I don't think one of the major, arguably the best player in the world, playing for a major footballing power coming to Dublin, it's probably the last chance most Irish people will get to see him play live.
Well, in fact, somebody just messaged us to say, I'm hugely looking forward to this match to show my appreciation to Stephen Kenny and his new young team. I couldn't care less about Ronaldo, says Jimmy. So some people are going just to support Stephen and his squad.
Yeah, well, I think that the 26,000 people that showed up for the Qatar friendly would have been there to support Stephen and his squad. So I think there obviously will be, there is quite a big base for Irish football. And Aon even mentioned the women's game. Unfortunately, there were touts operating outside the Sweden game last Thursday in Tallaght Stadium, which is the first time I've ever heard of touts at a women's game. And sadly, they're probably going to snap up tickets for the Slovakia and Georgia games next month because there's going to be massive demand now for those as well. So I would hope Tallaght Stadium is designated as well, and to try and outlaw this as much as possible.
But as we said, I'm gobsmacked that neither the Aviva nor Croke Park are on the list of designated venues. It defies belief, to be quite honest. But anyway, it is what it is. And this conversation today will obviously bring this to the fore, will make the people in charge of the legislation or the stadiums themselves actually move on this before. For example, we've an Ireland-New Zealand match in rugby coming up very soon in the Aviva. I would imagine tickets for that will be in massive demand. In fact, I know of a New Zealand guy who's desperate to get tickets for it. So you would like to think that'll become a designated event.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, that's only 2 days after the Portugal game, so I'm sure there's similar demand for that, if not even more demand. So, and 2 other rugby internationals next month as well. You have the Six Nations coming next year. There's going to be a big FAI centenary friendly in March. We don't know who the opposition is going to be yet, but I imagine, again, that game is going to have massive demand. So, yeah, I would love to see it in the legislation. If not, I would hope that the FAI, the IRFU, the GAA, etc., would actually just designate all their events. I mean, so what if you're designating Shamrock Rovers Finn Harps on Friday night as well? I mean, it's not an issue. Just designate every football match right down to the the under-14 leagues if needs be.
Let me read a message and get your reaction to it, Gary. And it says, I don't understand why everyone is so outraged at the price someone may charge for a ticket to an event. Aeon says it makes things more expensive for people attending, but yet no one seems to care that a train ticket, a plane ticket and a hotel room will increase in price by around 300% in any city on any weekend that a big event is taking place. So why is this not an issue? And that's a fair point. I don't know if you can regulate hotel prices around events. That's fairly standard that they would increase in price. Stay there for 1 second if you can, please, Gary. Gemma is on the line in Limerick. Gemma, what do you want to say on this?
Hi, Adrian. How are you? Listen, I just tuned in there when I heard the word Viagogo. I would actually say not only cost-wise, but I'd say be very wary when you're buying tickets from them full stop. We bought tickets for a concert, actually, in the summer. And it was to Andrea Bocelli, actually, in Spain. And we paid a lot of money for them, but we were actually, we knew what we were paying and we were satisfied to pay the amount.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got there, the tickets were scammed tickets. We had 3 tickets and all 3 tickets were scammed. And those that were running the concert asked us one question and they said, did you buy them from Viagogo? And we said yes. And he said, they're all scammed because there was about 30 to 40 other people there ahead of us that had also scammed tickets from around the world and around Europe, not so much, or not even Ireland, and they were all scammed. I spoke to 5 Scottish people myself there, and one lady actually had a Viagogo account.
Well, I'm just interested in this because in their statement to us earlier on, they said all tickets purchased on Viagogo are protected under the Viagogo guarantee and we stand over all tickets listed on our platform. So that's suggesting that there is some comeback.
Well, that's fantastic news, and I hope then they'll reply to our email we sent them about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, very good. Okay. I'd be very interested to know if they do.
We did contact them. We're still waiting to hear back from them. And also, Adrian, on the night when we were standing outside the concert in Spain, we rang their helpline. Their helpline was answered, and we were asked to check our email for the reference number. And when we went back to them with the reference number, we were left on hold for, I suppose, 45 minutes to an hour outside the concert. And the very same thing had happened to the other 5 people that we were talking to. So they didn't come back to us. So we weren't able to get in touch with them on the night.
So were you literally left standing outside the door, not able to go in?
Correct.
That's awful.
Correct. And we were one of about 40 to 50. And the only question we were asked was, did we buy them at Viagogo? They didn't even say, where did you get them? They asked, was it Viagogo?
Well, as I said, from their statement, they say all tickets purchased on Viagogo are protected under our guarantee and we stand over all tickets listed on our platform. That would certainly, in my opinion...
That's fantastic news because I'm due €508 then.
Oh, fantastic.
And you might ask them just how do we get in touch with them. Another interesting thing, Adrian, is that their office is in Limerick. And at the time they were recruiting people. And I actually looked on Trustpilot afterwards and I saw comments from ex-staff and they said they were recruited to be sort of customer liaison officers, but in actual fact, they were deflecting customers.
Okay, well, keep in touch with us because I'd be very interested, Gemma, because that statement makes it very, and this was only issued to us earlier on this morning, it makes it very clear that they will stand over all tickets listed on their platform and you're covered by guarantee.
Well, I look forward to hearing from them then because we have contacted them and we're still waiting for a reply. Okay, well, keep in touch with us and let us know if they do reply. Will do indeed. Good to talk to you, Gemma. Thanks very much indeed. 1890 453 106 is our phone number. You can text us on 53106. Gary, just to go back to you for 1 second, there's a lot of reaction to this, with some people saying, we must ask ourselves, let me read this message, we must ask ourselves, if the touts didn't buy the large amount of tickets for yesterday, would the game have been a sellout in 15 minutes? In other words, is it only a sellout because the touts jumped in?
No, I think this game would have sold out anyway, but had it been illegal to sell on the tickets at more than face value, you wouldn't have had all these professional and amateur touts online trying to buy tickets, and the ordinary fan would have had more of an opportunity. I think the game might have taken an hour or two to sell out yesterday. It still would have sold out. There is massive demand to see this game. not just from Irish football fans, but people want to see Ronaldo, they want to see Portugal, etc. So I wouldn't be, I still would have expected it to sell out, but it would certainly have made it a lot easier for the regular fan. And I mean, and in many cases, a lot of the demand is from children as well. And that makes it really, really difficult. And I know people say as well, you don't have to buy the tickets. And for somebody being around the block like myself, yeah, you can choose not to pay €200 or €300 for a ticket. But I mean, I ended up in the situation a few years ago for a concert, and my kids wanted to see One Direction in concert and just could not get a ticket. I was on the site and everything trying to buy the tickets, and in the end I ended up paying over the odds because they were just so desperate to see them.
And in fairness, and that's what drives people to pay over the odds for tickets. Interestingly, what Viagogo also said in their statement is tickets that are listed at unreasonable prices get the most media attention, but they rarely, if ever, sell. So we may see, tickets being sold for ridiculous amounts of money, but do they actually sell? And probably not. Do you know what I mean? Would you pay €400 and odd to go to that match? I don't think so. I don't think anybody would. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, we have been in touch with the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. We were mentioning The Lion King and the run-up to Christmas and how it's the most in-demand show, and how with just a click of a button on my phone here, I was able to see tickets for The Lion King on sale on viagogo.ie for €362. So if you're really desperate, and I know it has sold fairly well. We've just gotten a statement from the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre, and they say, we do not condone or endorse any third-party sales. Ticketmaster are our only approved and official ticket vendor. All online purchases should be made through Bord Gáis Energy Theatre and Ticketmaster. Unfortunately, if purchased completely outside of our system, we cannot assist with refund or exchange. The tickets belong to the purchaser, and due to data protection, we cannot share or give information surrounding the booking to anybody but the original booker. So is that saying that if you buy the tickets and they're not in your name and you show up at the theatre that you won't get in? That's possibly what that is saying. So in other words, you'd be ill-advised to buy the tickets from Viagogo because your name won't be on them. I think that's what that means. All right, thank you very much indeed to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. Mind you, it doesn't explain why they haven't got their venue assigned as a designated venue, which would prevent the sale of tickets above face value. So that statement doesn't really answer that question.
Lunchtime Live on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avant Money. Think you're getting the best value from your bank? Think again.
We were talking about ticket touting earlier on in the programme, and we've just gotten this statement in from the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar on ticket touting. He says his department has now received a request from the FAI to designate the Portugal game a game under ticket touting law. He says he will impress on the FAI the importance of maybe designating the Aviva a specific venue under the legislation, which is very important, particularly, as we mentioned, the New Zealand rugby match coming up in a couple of weeks. So the FAI has applied to have the Portugal game designated under ticket touting laws. Does that mean, though, that the tickets that have gone on sale on Viagogo have to be taken back down again? Will Viagogo have to take them down, or you won't get in with those tickets? We'll have to look into that as well. Anyway, that's a statement from the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar.
Lunchtime Live on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avant Money. Think you're getting the best value from your bank? Think again.